All right, straight into it for this week because I have got a heap of stuff on the boil which has totally killed my day. And I'm going to jump straight into the first thing which has been killing my day, which is just the amount of data from data breach at the moment. I mean, it is literally, I think it's unprecedented how much stuff I'm dealing with in parallel at the moment. Now, I want to sort of give you a little bit of a sense here, and then I want to talk about something which I think is a lot more serious in terms of why there is so much data to process and why there's so much time going into it. So, without naming names, because not all of this has been emphatically attributed back to a source as well. What do we got in here? We've got one here where we've got a journalist trying to chase down a company that has had some number of tens of millions of records exposed, which is probably that company, but we're not 100% sure, but we can't get an answer from them, even after calling them and leaving messages on voicemail machines and things like this. And this is actually probably the point where I want to make this observation about how messed up this is, because we're sort of at the point where discussion with this journo today, it's like, well, what do we do? We can't get an answer from the organization. Someone has found this data. We believe it's legitimate. We've got a lot of indicators to show that it is. Organization won't respond. Then you've got sort of responsible reporting stuff around, well, can we write a story about this if the organization hasn't acknowledged it? Where do we go? And also when there's not 100% verification, I can't go into details about why it's not 100% clear, but I'm talking about this morning, we're just sort of lamenting this situation where it's like, what do we do? We're sitting on tens of millions of records of people who would really want to know that they're in this data breach because a lot of personal information. What do we do? This is going to be a theme, I think, for 2020. Maybe this is going to be my 2020 theme, right? Like, how do we solve this problem? Because it's just nuts that we're having this discussion here. On to the other one here. Someone sent me this data here. I'm just noticing I have emailed this person. There's some large number of records in their personal data as well. I've emailed this organization 17th of Feb, which by my clock was 4 days ago. Still have had no response. I'm going to have to go and do the public tweet thing. Does anyone have a security contact at? Shortly. Probably still get no response, and then have to figure out what the hell I do. There's another one just here, which is a breach which is known, has been in the press, but just a huge amount of very personal and financial data now being very broadly circulated on a popular hacking forum as well. So that's another one that's a big problem. There's another party here that sent me a couple of really large ones. So think in the tens or hundreds of millions of records of I'm going to be careful how I say it because we're still going through the disclosure process, which is so freaking painful. But organizations who had a lot of data from people who may not have expected that they had the data. One of those people is me. So my data is in one of these records, and there's one of these breaches. And it's a really sort of interesting collection of data, the way it's been correlated to what looks to be other people that I'm connected to as well. So they're still there. I've got another one just here from an organization that seems like they really, really don't want to acknowledge this. And someone's trying to drive the point home to them in a not very subtle fashion. Got to figure out what to do with all that data. There's many hundreds of thousands of records in that one too. Another one just here with someone, I believe these are probably credential stuffing lists with under 10 and 11. So 10 figures would be billion, 11 figures would be tens of billions of records in them. So they're insane. Another one just here that someone's fired over seems to be appearing on a popular hacking forum at the moment. So that's, what, 6, 7, 8? I don't even know. I keep losing track of them. It's just like on my to-do list. So I've got untold numbers of data like sitting there waiting to be processed that I don't even have on the list. I've just dumped. And these are the ones that sort of floated to the top, and I went, okay, I've got to prioritize them. And I also want to spend some time with my kids, and in the sun as well. In fact, if you're watching this, you'll see I do have pool hair. So, okay, I have been in the sun a little bit. But the point is it's consuming just a massive amount of time. And the thing that I lament the most is that the time is going into trying to do the thing right. Like trying to get in touch with the organization, have the discussion with them, and verify it came from them. And that is so freaking hard. Anyway, still on Pwned things. I put out a tweet earlier this week, which got a lot of traction. Now, This tweet was following a meeting that I had with the company. Now, I can't name the company because I don't want to disclose what is ultimately part of their tradecraft of how they try and stop some of the malicious activity they're being seen. So apologies, I'm a little bit vague. It's not because I want to be vague. It's just I want to respect the privacy of the organisation that discloses. So I'll read you the tweet and then talk about some of the responses because they're quite interesting. Just had a fascinating chat re Have I Been Pwned and how the absence of an email address in the system is an indicator that it may not be a legit one used for real-world purposes. In other words, we're so pwned that not being pwned indicates a potential abnormality. Thoughts? Now, a bunch of people came back, and because it's Twitter, they were a bit upset. And they were sort of decrying the usefulness of this. And just to be clear, I spoke to an organisation that's actually using this to great effect to prevent this, or identify at least, the sorts of attacks that they're worried about. So this does actually work really well for at least one organisation. I found a lot of people saying, well, I use plus aliasing on my email addresses. So I am John plus PayPal at gmail.com. Therefore, every one of my email addresses haven't been seen before in a data breach when I sign up, things like this. I'm a real person. I am offended on behalf of all the people that use plus aliasing in their email addresses. Now, I got quite a bit of that, and some of them were quite irate too. I followed up shortly after with another tweet. And this tweet says, a lot of people seem to have missed the key word here, indicator. If an email address isn't pwned, it doesn't mean it's fake. But if none of a 1,000 sample of random addresses is pwned, that's statistically significant information. That's where the value is. Now, I think a few more people got it then, but there are a few more people that were also very derogatory about the practice. Now, it just feels like this security absolutism thing before, of the term I've used before. I've become quite fond of the term security absolutism, where someone thinks if something isn't perfect, then it's just no good, and it has to be spot on every single time. And really, a lot of what we deal with isn't like that. Password managers are not perfect. We still use them. Two-factor authentication is not perfect. SMS 2FA is far from perfect. We still use it because it's better than not having it. So all of these things. So I think that the big thing people are missing here is that let's imagine you, and I'm trying to pick my examples carefully here so I don't sort of disclose how this organisation is using it. But let's imagine you were to see some sort of a process where there were many new email addresses provided to your system. Now, in that process, you want to be able to get a sense of, is this a sudden uptick of accounts which are not real legitimate accounts used for everyday processes, or are we just being unexpectedly successful today? Now, when you have enough volume come through and you can establish a norm, so okay, for argument's sake, I find when I look at the API hits to Have I Been Pwned, I can see the distribution by status code. I can see how many 404s there are versus 200s. A 404 means the record's not in Have I Been Pwned, a 200 means it is. Statistically, about 50% of searches return a hit. So imagine you're an organisation, you've got a whole heap of email addresses coming in, you check them on Have I Been Pwned, and consistently 50% of them have never been seen before. Now you're ticking along. For those watching or those listening, I'm doing a little graph thing with my hand. Right, you're ticking along, and then suddenly you get to this point where it's not 50%, it's 80%, and there's this sudden uptick. That is an abnormality. Now that is the point where you go, okay, something other than what is usual is happening. And that is very useful information. That doesn't mean you just start, like, for argument's sake, blocking all the ones that have never been pwned before. It's like, hey, you've never been in a data breach, you don't get to sign up to our service. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it is a really, really good indicator, because you might then find that there are other patterns related to those email addresses that are being used by whichever actor that is. Maybe the location they're coming from, the IP address, or the user agent strings, or other behavioral attributes, the patterns that they use once they're on the site. There are so many nuances to the way this data can be used. And the reason I tweeted it is because I was just fascinated by that use case. I had never heard, in the 6 and a bit years of me running Have I Been Pwned, I'm quite sure I'd never heard of someone say, yeah, we use it not to identify where someone has been exposed and where they might be at risk, but rather to influence our confidence rating about the legitimacy of the address. And if you take it a little bit further, your confidence level can also be very different based on when the address appeared in a data breach, where it appeared in a data breach. We know that LinkedIn and Adobe were very large breaches that happened many years ago. We know exactly when they happened. And the prevalence of an email address in there tells us something different to an email address that's only appeared in a data breach from yesterday. So it helps us date the age of an address as well. And that can be really useful for many different purposes. So I thought that was just really interesting, and it sort of got me thinking, how many good ideas are there out there, like useful things that we can do? And in this case in particular, this was doing something really useful that would be beneficial to many of us in society. So how many more use cases are out there that I haven't thought of, or that other people haven't sort of come forward and said, hey, have you thought about doing this? And that gets me a little bit excited, to be honest, because I think there's a lot of potential left that just hasn't been tapped into yet. Now, speaking about potential, tapping into things, exciting things. Well, how do I even approach this? IoT candle, like literally a candle you can light from your smartphone. Now, this has had a lot of likes. It got retweeted by Internet of Shit. That's got something like 450,000 followers, so that's got a good bit of traction. What are my stats on this tweet? Because what I want to do, I'm going to read you the tweet, and then I actually haven't looked at the details of this. I've just read some of the tweets in response, and I want to go through this because I think it's going to sound kind of hilarious. So this has been seen 206,000 times now, which is a fairly healthy tweet. So the tweet was, remember when the biggest worry we had about candles was the house burning down because you left one on? Get ready for other people to start sparking them up for you remotely with, air quotes, smart candles with real fire. And this is the thing, this is actually, it lights fire, right? It lights fire remotely. This is not like a little glowing light bulb that looks like a candle and flickers or something like that. It's a real freaking candle. So let's look at this Kickstarter project, because again, I honestly, like I clicked on the link, I read the headline, and then I was like, oh, this is just crazy. Candle Touch, the first smart connected real flying candle. Did any of you ask for a smart candle? Like, where did this come from? With a tap on your smartphone, you can now magically light up a real scented candle. Incidentally, they are at, this is in Aussie dollars, they're at 41,500 of their $45,000 goal. Now, one of the people who have kicked in money for this is Scott Helm, who did that immediately after I tweeted it. Now, knowing Scott, my guess is that this is not to make his bedroom smell nice. I think he has other things in mind for it, so I will be watching that with interest. They've actually got a little video here as well. Oh my god. Oh, they're going back to the history of fire. 1 million BC, there's fire. 8,000 BC, there's fire on a stick. 760 AD, we got matches. 1823, the lighter comes along. And then the next stage in the evolution is the smart candle. There's a lady in a very nice evening gown. Oh, it's interesting. It looks like it's got a filament that wraps around the wick of the candle to light it up. And they're just going through all the design features. The candle also has an LED, so double light, I guess, something like that. Rechargeable battery, scented wax, recyclable glass, no mention about whether all the other precious metals in there are recyclable or not. Couple sitting on the couch looking very happy with their scented candle. Dude's literally sitting back there on the couch, lighting the candle that's like here with his phone. They've made some lasagna for dinner, and the wife is now in the kitchen. Oh, she lights all the candles at once. They coordinated candles, and then they're sitting at the table with the candles right in front of them. Supports IoT standards, apparently. Bloke is outside sitting on his yoga mat. Oh, see, here's the problem. This is why you need the candles. The guy's sitting on his yoga mat trying to light a candle. The wind's blowing it out. It's burning his finger. And now he gets the 3 scented smart candles, and he's sitting there all zen-like. Oh, this is hilarious. And I can't even hear what they're saying. I kind of want one now. I kind of want one just to see how weird shit gets. All right, so here's the story. What's the Candle Touch? The world's first smart connected candle. There's a reason no one's done this before. Just putting that out there. With a single tap, you can now light up a real scented candle that will ignite magically. What do they say about any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic? This is not sufficiently advanced. It is like a filament that gets hot because a current is passed through it. Ooh, registered patent in United States, Japan, Europe, and Israel. Okay. It's in the press. The press pieces are kind of interesting. Someone did tweet this before, and I thought it was funny when I saw it. So the Irish Times. Candle Touch is the first app-enabled ignition for candles. Users can remotely light up a wax candle with a real wick, all from an app on any smart device. Because normally what companies do when they quote the press is they're quoting something about, like, this is revolutionary, this is going to change candle lighting forevermore, humans will now be very, very happy, or something like that. But this is like literally just statement of fact. Silicon Republic, Candle Touch, the Israeli-made Internet of Things, IoT. Candle lets you ignite a flame right from your smartphone. That basically says the same thing. The Daily Dot, these are the real deal. Well, they're selling them, so you'd kind of hope so. And the flame is controlled remotely. Welcome to the future of mood lighting. Anyway, it goes on. Oh, there's a topic or a headline here. Enhancing the magic. Candles are magical. No, it's science. Come on. They have existed for thousands of years, and they are considered to have mystical and relaxing benefits. Okay, relaxing, granted. If you've ever been to Denmark, the Danish people are going to get upset with the way I say this, but they have hygge, candles and warm, fuzzy stuff everywhere. And apparently the Danish are some of the happiest people in the world, partly because of the hygge. Now, the mystical bit, it's a fire. Once we understood how fire works, it stopped being mystical. Anyway, candles are used for celebration, romance, spiritual purposes, to light up your dinner table, or just for a calming experience. I'm not feeling very calm reading this, if I'm honest. It's the next revolutionary experience, having all the benefits of a real scented candle with an easy-to-use magical effect. Stop saying magic. Why is this magical? Features. Easy to use, no match or light is needed. Scented natural coconut wax. Is it a feature not to have a lighter? Light up to 10 candles simultaneously with our app. Okay, granted, I can't do that with a normal candle, but I do find something relaxing around walking around the house and just lighting candles. It's reusable, replaceable wax fill. Now, someone on the Twitters did say, yeah, you got to buy it all from them. Okay, fair enough. Burns up to 40 hours, rechargeable battery. Now tell me, do your candles have rechargeable batteries? No, exactly. This is why you need this. So to set it up, you download the Candle Touch app. Oh, don't do it. Don't do it. Just leave it alone. To replace the wax refill, you do that. Choose your scent, black, amber and oak, grapefruit and cardamom, green tea and lemongrass. It goes on. Safer than ordinary candle. Now, all right. I've been on the internet. I've seen Internet of Things, and I wonder how they reach that conclusion. Let's say they quantify how. Don't play with fire, says every mom, American, to every child. Fires can be dangerous if not used with safety precautions, or some other bastard lights it up in your house as well. There's always that. Candle Touch eliminates some of the major risks of candle ignition. There's no need for external... There is no need for external lighting tool, matches or lighters, which we all know are not safe to keep around the house. Now, here's an interesting fact. This I kind of knew, but then someone highlighted it and linked me to it. If you go to Wikipedia, what are we? Wikipedia, and you look at weasel word. Now, weasel words are kind of interesting, and once you sort of start thinking about this, you'll look out for it more. A weasel word, or anonymous authority, is an informal term for words and phrases aimed at creating an impression that something specific and meaningful has been said, when in fact only a vague or ambiguous claim has been communicated. Examples include the phrases, some people say, most people think, and researchers believe. And I just raise that because the we all know is ridiculous. We all know are not safe to keep around the house. I've got freaking candles and matches and lighters and things in my house. It hasn't burned down yet. This is ridiculous. No injuries or burn while lighting the touch candle. Well, your bloody house burns down because someone else has lit the candle whilst it's sitting under a piece of paper or something. Well, maybe something will get burned. The Candle Touch app has a reminder feature that reminds you to put it off. Interesting English, isn't it? This last one's great. You can apply a password to the ignition, preventing any unauthorized users. Can you remember this? Or imagine this, right? Like you'll be going, honey, I'd like to set the mood lighting on. What's the password to the bloody candle? I can't get the mood lighting. What's your mother's birthday? When the hell's your mother's birthday? Imagine trying to create a mood where you got to remember a password for your candle. Can it integrate with 1Password? That's what I want to know. How did we get here? Specs and dimensions, rewards, basic colors, silver, white, black, limited editions with carbon and wood. Interesting. I wonder if I have to get one of these. Maybe I have to. How much are they? What do they start at? They start at $49 for one reusable base and one scented count. I will do this. I'm going to buy one. Screw it. I can see why Scott did it now because I'm just too bloody curious not to do it. I'm going to go and order one of these as soon as this recording is done because I'm just fascinated. This, I think, is a good research expense as well. So, yeah, thank you, Taxman. This is definitely going to be an interesting piece. All right, so I think on that note, I might leave the candles. I got a little bit carried away there. Honestly, this was the first time I read the page. I think this is fascinating. Just go and have a look at it because this feels like peak IoT. I thought I'd seen peak IoT before, but this is now peaked. All of that said, and whilst I mentioned 1Password is this week's blog sponsor. They definitely don't need any introduction here. It has now been, it must be more than 9 years now that I've been using 1Password, paying for it with my own money. Yes, they do sponsor Have I Been Pwned as well. They've got product placement there because it's a very, very good place to think about password managers. I do actually still go and buy it myself every time it's due. So 1Password is still my favorite password manager, and I've spent a bunch of time with a lot of the people there from 1Password as well. And I know that I do have a luxury of being able to spend time with people from companies like this, which many other people don't get that opportunity. So trust me, really good people, and I really enjoyed the discussions with them. And one of the things that does make them very different to many of the other organizations I've dealt with is every single time I catch up with 1Password people, no matter where they are on the hierarchy of the business, they all really, really fundamentally, passionately care about security and about the product they make. So I'm super happy to have them there on the sponsor bar this week. So please, if you don't have a password manager, or if you do and it's not 1Password, go and check it out. Who knows, maybe you'll even be able to log into your candle with it and light up the mood for your significant other. Thank you very much for watching. I will come to you again from home without any travel next week. See ya.